Hi, my name is Dr. Kristen Miller, and I'm here today to talk to you about some options and solutions, some tips and helpful resources for converting laboratory classes to a completely online environment. There are a lot of advantages to using online laboratories. For one thing, there's no budget or supply needed. For another thing, they have very easy setup, both for you as a professor and for your students. For a third thing, they're always accessible to the class, even when face-to-face is not an option, as it is not now for most of us. They allow students to perform experiments that would not otherwise be possible in a classroom setting. Frequently, due to lack of equipment or lack of budget or lack of appropriate space or just due to safety precautions, there are many kinds of labs that are simply not possible to do with students in a traditional classroom laboratory setting. And in an online format, with the use of simulations and online data sets, you can often perform those kinds of laboratories. So they offer some unique learning experiences for the students. Online labs can also be easier for multilingual students as it allows them to take advantage of online translation services. And they also provide for uniformity across many colleges. There's a wide disparity in the variety and style and accessibility of laboratory equipment from one college to another. And online laboratories essentially equalize that playing field. There are some disadvantages to using online labs, and it's important to be aware of those as you're converting your laboratory component into an online environment. The first and biggest disadvantage is that most of the materials that you find online are going to be pre-planned. There will be very little room for creativity. Learning from mistakes is an important part of the lab experience. It's possibly the most important part of the laboratory experience. And having that element taken out is definitely a challenge in planning an online lab. They can also present additional challenges for minorities and for some students with disabilities. Accessing the materials and the simulations, using them, and viewing some of the data online can be difficult for students with particular disabilities. So you want to be very conscious of that and very careful and possibly have a plan B in mind if you have students who have disabilities in your classroom. I wanted to share this link at the bottom to a very interesting article on teaching science labs online. It has some really interesting ideas and commentary on the advantages and disadvantages of online labs and for college students, and I hope that you'll find the resource useful. The first type of lab that I wanted to talk about, the easiest to implement in a class, is a complete lab option. There are many different companies that offer fully completed labs that you just have to take and insert into your class, and it's done. The PHET labs are one of those. They have a lot of advantages. They cover a wide variety of subjects in the sciences, from physics and biology to chemistry, math, or science. The PHET labs are very interactive. They actually allow students to develop their own experiments. So unlike many lab options, they actually do allow for some creativity. They are also, many of them are also quantitative, which allow for calculations, which is always a bonus in an online lab. And the newer labs are HTML based, which makes them platform independent and much more accessible for the students. There are some disadvantages for the PHET labs. The labs which are not newer, the older versions of the labs require Java, which does not run on all platforms. It also requires the absolute latest version of Java, so if students don't have that updated on their computer, they won't be able to run the lab. There are no ready-made lab reports for the PHET labs. You would have to come up with those yourself, which can be time-consuming. And the instructions are minimal, so when students are presented with the lab, unless you have written a very detailed instruction manual for that particular lab, they will be a little bit lost as they go through it. So you want to be aware of that when you're using those labs. The NAAP labs, on the other hand, these are also ready-to-go lab documents. They contain extensive background information for each lab topic, which is really nice. They not only give complete instructions for how to use the lab and what to do during the lab, but they also contain extra background material on the topics. Give a very thorough treatment of each topic, and they're very interactive. The cons are they are not, they are only astronomy specific, so they're only available for that subject. And the other one is that they don't allow for much creativity in the lab experience. There are some other simulations and options. YouTube has a wide variety of online labs. You can search for what you find there. Again, there won't be reports written for them, but they do have a wide variety of topics, and those can be really useful. And there are also many companies right now that are offering free use of their lab materials. MindTap has labs in the sciences, which are excellent, and they're complete laboratory packages that you can add to your class. They're very high quality, as are the Pearson labs. Completely created, nothing for you to do as an instructor except insert them in. They also come with their own tech support, which is a huge advantage for the labs. So you might want to check into those options. These are just a few ideas which I hope will help you as you try to create a meaningful laboratory experience for your students in your class. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for listening.